Welcome to the TikTok podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey friends, happy 50th episode! And the crowd goes wild. Wow. 50 episodes. That is a lot of fun time that we've gotten to spend together. Some of you that have listened for the duration, hats off to you. Little bow, lots of claps and appreciation. And if you're just now finding the TikTok podcast, welcome. Welcome in. Welcome to the conversations that we get to have every week. We have solo episodes that drop on Tuesdays. We have really incredibly insightful and brilliant guests on Fridays. I started off calling them a featured Friday bonus episode because I thought, well, how many people do I really know that I want to have share their stories on Fridays? Apparently, there's a lot of them. And I am meeting new people all the time. And you've probably started to notice that some of our guests that have been on and that are to come are new friends of mine too. So I'm really thankful for that opportunity. So, congratulations to you guys. This is your show. It really is. It wouldn't be here without you. And so, on the 50th episode, I did look up the biblical meaning of 50. There was a lot of different things, but one thing that I read that I loved was 50 in the Bible means freedom, celebration, and abundance. I'm like, okay, we can rock and roll with those. Freedom, celebration, and abundance. I'm all about it. So I thought, all right, 50th anniversary. Here we go. Episode. How about the 50 best time management tips? No, that would be a 50-hour episode. All right, what about the 50 best lessons from the last 50 episodes? Nah, that would also be too much. Okay, why don't we narrow it down? How about the 5 things that you can do today to make the most of your time and make time what matters? Perfect. That sounds so much better. How about the 5 areas of focus and freedom? So, the 5 areas that will develop more freedom, more celebration, and more abundance, which falls right in line with the number 50. So, before I give you the 5 things that really came to my mind that I also put into practice. So, I'm not going to Google the top 5 things that people that they say. I'm going to tell you the 5 things that if I were sitting down, which I often do with my teenagers, and said to them, hey, listen, can I, as our school says, can I give you wise counsel? Like, would you be willing to just look into my eyes and listen for a minute? These things are going to serve you really well. Well, those are the things that I'm going to tell you today. Are there 5 million other things? Of course they are. But these are the ones that have been planted on my heart to share with you today. But first, celebrating. And I mean, is this our 50th anniversary, our 50th birthday, our 50th show? I mean, yeah, whatever we want to say it. If you would do me the gift, you can actually pause this right now. Go to your Apple Podcast app and give us a 5-star rating and review. You can write just a sentence, doesn't have to be a novel. A sentence would be amazing. This is the way that more people get to hear the show, and it just gives us some great credibility too. So if you would do that for me and press pause and then come right back, you won't miss anything, I promise. Okay, so here we go. The first thing that I want to tell you that will bring freedom, celebration, abundance, focus is, what can I do today that my tomorrow self will thank me for? What can I do today that my tomorrow self will thank me for? You've heard me say this before, so let me just sort of recap it and review it. Remember, we're no longer going to fall for the lie that it will be easier tomorrow. So whether that is filling up the gas tank, go ahead and just do it. If you're driving down the road, the next gas station you see, if you're at like a half a tank or less, trust me. Or look ahead in your calendar and say, what do I have coming up this week that I have an extra 5 minutes for right now? I'm just going to go ahead and do it now So I get to cross it off for later. I don't know if you like to cross things off to-do lists. I love them. Or maybe you delete them off your to-do list, or maybe you check them off. I love all of those things. So look ahead. I'll often do that. It's not that I usually have a lot of free extra time, but when I do, or if you are in the carpool line or you are waiting on something, a phone call, or you're on hold, just take a quick look at your calendar. Is there anything coming up this week that I can just go ahead and knock out now? Also, I like to stack things together. And again, this has to do with things that, well, I can thank myself later for. So maybe there's a similar task, but I tend to do it once a week. Maybe I can do next week's while I do this week's. So I can stack things together so that I can knock them out. I mean, even things for me where I live on Pensacola Beach. It's a little barrier island. We've got a bridge into a smaller town called Gulf Breeze. And then we have another 3-mile bridge into the big city of Pensacola. So if I have to go in town, yes, that's in quotes. If I have to go in town, I will think, what else is going on, not just today for whatever reason I'm going in town, but is there something else later this week or even the beginning of next week that I can knock out? Like, are there birthday cards that I can stop and get at the store? Or is there an ingredient that I needed for something special? Or, you get the idea. While I'm here, what else can I do? And the only way that you'll know that is if you just go ahead and look ahead. What can I do today that my tomorrow self will thank me for? You can even reward yourself. I love to reward myself. If I do a little something that I could have done tomorrow, but I do it today, and then I've got some free time, I mean, that time is my time. It is porch sitting time in the sunshine with the birds chirping, with my little Pippa. She's my dog sitting next to me, listening to an audiobook, that kind of thing. So I'll reward myself if I do something today that my tomorrow self is like, yes, you go, girl. So I'm going to challenge you now to do one of those things after you listen to this episode. So the minute you hear the closing tunes, you're going to pick something. One other thing that has to do with this is a lot of times I will do this before I go to bed. So if there is that dish in the sink, my tomorrow self will appreciate that this sink is clean when I come downstairs. Anybody else have stairs and there are things that are left on the stairs by other family members that they were capable of bringing up, but it will just have a clear mind for myself in the morning if the stairs are clear. I'll just go ahead and grab those as I'm going up the stairs one last time. I might dump them in front of that particular person's bedroom so they can handle it, but it's out of my eyesight when I come down in the morning so that my morning is better. So a lot of times that little extra tomorrow self task is done right before I go to bed. Now, what we've learned recently is it's not at the expense of sleep because I can get caught up in that trap too. So it's not like, all right, I'm going to be a martyr tonight and I'm going to stay up and do all of these things for tomorrow and I'm going to neglect my sleep. No, no, no. I'm talking about something that takes just a couple of minutes. Maybe there's a load of towels. Isn't that your favorite in the dryer? You're like, I could knock this out in 5 minutes. So maybe there's a load of towels. You just fold those really quickly. Maybe you start to listen to some music that calms your soul, or you've got something, a favorite little episode of something that you're watching while you fold those towels. And then tomorrow, you don't have to do it. Okay, so speaking of the things we do tonight for tomorrow, let's hit number 2. So first thing was, what can I do today that my tomorrow self will thank me? Second thing is, be aware of the bookends of your day. I just recently heard someone say that it's the first 2 hours and the last hour of your day. And by the way, yes, we are going to have a morning routine episode. I know we sort of got really stuck on this evening routine because it led to our sleep and it led to much more. We are going to have that. And I will tell you some tips for your morning routine. But when you have a handle on that morning and evening, that AM and that PM routine and some systems, I feel like that's how you handle the messy middle, the crazy middle of the day. So let me just ask you this. What would I say? that your morning and evening routine, rhythm, structure, what do they tell me about you? So if I took a peek into what your first 2 hours of your day look like and what your last hour of the day look like, what would I think? What would I think that you prioritize? What would I think that is something wise that you do? What would I think that that is something maybe neutral? It's just part of your habit and it's part of your routine. No biggie. And is there anything that I would look at and go, you know, it might be smart to either shift that, or it might be smart to replace that, or it might be smart to shorten that or lengthen that. I just got a wonderful message from one of our listeners, and she was telling me that she was going back and listening to one of the first episodes, and it was just reminding her of the importance of her morning and what she wanted to do and how she wanted to spend her time. It was Angela, and Angela was telling me that she intentionally got up early and spent an hour on her quiet time because she listened to an episode, and I could just hear it in her voice how wonderful that set the tone for her day. So be aware of the bookends of your day. Does something need to change or shift? Does the timing need to change? Do you actually need to prepare for the next day? Some people like to set their clothes out for the next day. I don't even know some people that set their clothes out for the whole week, right? So they've got their Monday clothes, their Tuesday, whatever, they've got it all set out. They've got their jewelry set out. So they just don't have to have that distraction in the morning. Some people, they prepare their meals for the whole week, maybe on that Sunday. So in the mornings, when everything is a little bit harried, then you already know this is what we're eating for breakfast. We have this going on. For me, it's things like music that sets the tone. It's my surrender posture and prayer that I do in the morning. It's starting my day off looking at the verse of the day. It's just different things like that that really get my day up and running. And for somebody else, they might think, well, gosh, that's a lot of time invested in your mental and physical and emotional self before you get to maybe your job. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, number one, what can I do that my tomorrow self will thank me for? Number two, be aware of the bookends of your day. Take stock. And what would your bookends tell me about you? Number three, have a plan. Yeah, that's good. This is a time management podcast. Have a plan and a backup plan. Okay, I just came up with this. I should coin this, hashtag it, go on the road. Have a plan A and a plan P. You know what P stands for? Pivot. A plan A and a plan P. Not a plan B, a plan A and a plan P. P for pivot. I like to use the if then method. So you can use your brain drain and your weekly plan sheets. Those are always listed in our show notes. You can check those out. And then in the back of your mind, know if this falls apart or if I actually don't end up having time for it, then I will add it here. I will add it to my margin time that I have. And maybe you've got some margin time. I have margin time on Friday afternoons. I don't really plan a lot of things in my business or my personal life on Friday afternoons, so that if something doesn't happen earlier in the week, I know where I can place it. Maybe for you, it's Saturday mornings or it's Sunday nights, or maybe it's a Wednesday night. That's just kind of a catch all. It's really smart to budget in that bonus time, that margin time, so that if something doesn't happen, then you already know where it's going to happen. So you don't have to plan it for both times, because ideally you'll get it done when you say you're going to get it done. But this allows you to have that plan P. Maybe you'll even say, if this doesn't happen, I know that I'm moving it to next week, or I'm asking somebody else to do it. The bottom line is it needs to be done on paper or digitally somewhere, this plan. It can't just stay up in your head, because that's when we get in trouble. That's when we overbook, we overcommit, we overwhelm ourselves, we neglect the most important things, we spin our wheels. And if this is something that you want a little bit of help with, I am going to shout out to this Friday's episode with a new friend of mine, Jana. She is a psychotherapist. She is an adult with ADHD, with a child with ADHD. She's going to give us a couple little things about getting it out of our head and making sure that we do stay focused and we have freedom in that too. So it is good to know what is ideal if everything works out. And it is also good to have your contingency plan. It helps you be back in control when you control the possibilities or you control the pivot. Really cool, right? It's like an insurance plan for it. Okay, number 4, say no when necessary. Remember, this is an episode about our 50th episode about freedom, celebration, and abundance. Say no when necessary. Remember, whose schedule is this? Who owns this schedule? It is yours. It is your schedule. It is your life. It is your priorities. You get to decide who gets part of your precious time. And a no could be a no for now or a no till next time. It doesn't have to be permanent. No for now. No for next time. I'm going to review a few ways that I say this to somebody. So if I've said no to you recently, you're probably like, oh, oh, you said that really nicely. I did, and I mean it. So these aren't just platitudes. I would mean this to somebody. I would say something like, I so appreciate your thinking of me. Or what a fun event or opportunity. Or that sounds like a great idea. So I'm going to affirm it because I mean it. And if I had all the time in the world, chances are people that ask me for part of my time, I would want to give it to them. So I acknowledge it first. Again, I so appreciate your thinking of me. What a fun event or opportunity. Or that sounds like a great idea. And then I have to add in my piece where I am my no. I have to decline this time. Or I sure wish I could. Ask me again in the future. I'm unable to, or I'm already booked. So I'll repeat these again for you. If you're just listening, riding down the road, I have to decline this time. I sure wish I could. Ask me again in the future. I'm unable to, and I'm already booked. We learned many episodes ago from my girlfriend who talked about that it is either a yes to something and a no to something else, or a no to something and a yes to something else. Remember, it's not one or the other, it is both. It is both. That was Randy, my girlfriend, who gave us an incredible Friday bonus episode. She is has cystic fibrosis, and she talked about really the value of our schedule, the value of that yes and the value of that no. All right, so we're on that. These are your little tasks for today. What can I do today that tomorrow my tomorrow self will thank me for? Being aware of the bookends of my day. Those are really the bookends and the boundaries of my day. Number 3, having a plan and a backup plan. What do we call that now? A plan A and a plan P. Number 4, saying no when necessary. And then number 5, be present today. In episode 31, my girlfriend Erin taught us to look down at our feet. Look down at your feet. This is where you are in this moment. And to appreciate that. The present is a gift. What if what you've worked for and the choices that you've made in your life have led you to where you are now or to what you have now? Why wouldn't we take the time to appreciate that and to value that? Or if that doesn't sit quite right and you're like, goodness, I am not where I want to be. I haven't worked for maybe what I really have wanted. I haven't worked enough. I haven't worked consistently. Or maybe the choices that I've made have not been stellar. They've not been aligned with who I want to be. And I'm looking down at my feet and going, I should be at a different place by now. That's okay. That is a healthy challenge for you today because what you're working for and being intentional on today, guess what? That's where you're going to be tomorrow and the next day. So being present right now doesn't always have to mean that you love it all. It means that you acknowledge it all. It means that you decide to take back your power and to own it. I just want to finish this episode with a recent example of this. I had an appointment a few days ago with a new client. They found me through a referral, kind of crazy. They went on the website to find someone in their area that woman never called them back. That's a whole nother lesson. If you don't have time and make time to call people back and to return their phone calls, gonna slap you with a wet noodle, right? So they decided they needed to continue finding, and I say they, and you'll hear why in a second. They needed to continue finding somebody that would service them and take care of them. And we're able to get a referral, and that referral gave them my name. So I got a phone call, and it was from a husband, and he said that his wife was interested in being my client. And the reason he was calling was that she has Alzheimer's. She's young. She's in her, I would say, early 60s. And he was going to be the one that was going to be helping her with that. And I could either come to them or they could come to me. And so, long story short, they came over to my house a few days ago. We sat at my kitchen table for an hour and we visited. I learned all about them. I learned that they're high school sweethearts. I learned that they have two grown children. They have a couple of grandchildren, that they have moved midway in their lives to be closer to family. Some their parents, those parents have since passed, and they made the decision to move down here to Paradise for a little while. And not too long ago, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I learned things like when he was in his early 40s, he sold his business and he wasn't expecting to, but he had worked really hard. He was able to sell his business and they've been traveling the world ever since. Their favorite places have been Ireland and Australia. They are scuba divers. So they've scuba dived everywhere, all around the world, and Tahiti and New Zealand, and they were telling me these stories, and sometimes she would forget her words, and sometimes she needed a little bit of assistance from him. I was able to fulfill her product order that she wanted, and I'm gonna label the product so that he knows which one she's supposed to use when, which is really, really precious. I visited them the next day to deliver some of those things to them and just spend another little bit with them, looking out at their view that they have over the beautiful body of water where I live, and just talking about friends that had come to visit them and when their family and grandchildren get to come. And I just have to say that is was one of the most heartwarming and probably heartbreaking experiences I've had in a long time. As I talked to this new client of mine, her name is Stacy, she has some memories. Of course, some of them are really, deep-seated, and she has that long-term memory, some of them. And then she literally has the present. She has that moment that she's in right then. And so does her husband. Of course, he's got the great memories of what they have, but he has just now and just today. And so I thought, what little things trip me up? What little things do I feel like, oh my goodness, I have to get this list done today or else? And then I think about Stacy and her husband, Pat. And I think, you know what? How about being present? Being present in the moment. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're thinking about what we can maybe free up from our schedule. That's why we're thinking about how we begin and end our day. That's why we're not panicking if plan A doesn't happen. It's okay. And that's why maybe we're saying no to things that are not the most important. One last thought I had about this is if you found yourself asking, when was the last time I fill in the blank? When was the last time I went for a walk without my phone? When was the last time I picked up my phone and just called a friend for no reason? When was the last time I just sat in a swing and read a book? When was the last time we had movie night as a family? When was the last time I made myself something yummy to sip on and I went out in my garden? When was the last time? I just want to say on this note, if you're saying, when was the last time I just want to encourage you to make that time today. Because in this 50th episode, remember, it is about freedom, celebration, and abundance. Okay, there's a lot of great episodes to come, a lot of great interviews to come. It's been a wonderful experience so far, and I really feel like we're just getting started. So, thanks for the first 50, gang. God bless you.
Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.